Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's live webinar session, Defining New Realities, How AR plus IoT Solves Quality Assurance Processes in Manufacturing. My name is Alex Janicki. I'm Director of Marketing here at TriStar, and I'm going to be moderating this presentation. I'm really excited to be joined by Bogdan Cudzilo. He's Business Development Manager for TriStar. We've also got, as you can see, Joe Van Harken, co-founder for Th3rd Coast Digital Solutions, and Brad Wade. He's the Detroit chapter president for the Virtual Reality Augmented Reality Association. Before we begin, I did want to mention an on-demand copy of this webinar will be provided to everyone who registered. And there will also be a recording that will become available shortly after the presentation on tristar.com, our YouTube channel. We encourage, we encourage everyone to kind of share this with your colleagues. If you found it interesting, get it out there on social media. We're going to be going over some really interesting tool here today. This presentation is going to be sort of an open discussion. So we do encourage and would love to see questions you may have during the presentation. And anything that we don't get to, feel free to leave them towards the end of the presentation, and we'll have sort of a brief Q&A. With that, I kind of wanted to just briefly go over the agenda. So I've already introduced myself, but pretty soon we're going to learn more about Brad Wade and Joe Van Harken and Bogdan and TriStar Solutions. There, we're going to kind of discuss what is AR. I think most of you here probably know what it is, but really what solutions does it solve in quality assurance and manufacturing? Th3rd Coast is going to introduce a tool called Inspect and Collect and kind of just explain what it can do in the manufacturing space. What problems does it solve? There's going to be a live demonstration of this specific tool. Kind of the implementation, the cost, the proof of concepts, and what exactly it can solve. And again, at the very end, beyond the open panel, we are going to have a Q&A. So again, just keep those questions lined up. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Brad so he can kind of introduce himself.
Okay, thank you, Alex. It's so nice to be here. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today, whether you are with us live or you're watching this on demand. It's so nice to be with Alex, Bogdan, and my good friend Joe. It seems like we are always on these together, very frequent. It's nice to see you again. So I'll tell you a little bit about myself. My name is Brad Wade. I am the Detroit chapter president of the VRARA Association. I'm also the president of Brad Wade Media. We are a solutions provider, all things from media, video production, and of course, augmented reality and virtual reality development and solutions. So that's a little bit about me. Joe, why don't you take over and introduce yourself a little bit for everybody watching who's joining us today.
Sure. Thank you, everybody, for joining. My name is Joseph Van Harken. I am co-founder of Th3rd Coast Digital Solutions. We have 20 plus years experience in video production and specifically enterprise or corporate level training and e-learning solutions as well. And about 5 years or so ago, we really started to dig deep into the XR tool set, looking at XR. By XR, I mean augmented reality, virtual reality, mixed reality. If you're not familiar with these terms, please, as Alex mentioned up top, fire away questions. We really want this to be an interactive a webinar and experience. And I'm sure that we have an audience with varying degrees of experience. Please fire away. But long and short, so for the past 5 years, specifically in the XR space, we've been looking at different applications to see where value would be created within a manufacturing setting. And we've discovered a lot of interesting insights that we are excited to share today, specifically about a solution that targets quality assurance, visual inspection, etc.
Excellent. Now, Bogdan, would you take a moment and just share with us a little bit about yourself and TriStar?
Yes, absolutely. So good morning, afternoon, everyone, wherever you may be watching this. I'm a business development manager for TriStar. I'm on the service team where we help our customers with their product development, their processes, their wind chill, PLM, and ThingWorks softwares. Just a bit about TriStar. We've been in business 25 years, helping customers with their PTC products, whether it's providing them a solution or providing training to take advantage of that solution, and also consulting to implement best practices using either Windchill, Creo, and now something new that is kind of sweeping across the industry is the ability to connect various systems together and present that information to the end user in a whole new way that is going to transform the way that a company services, assembles their products. We have consultants, and we're happy to introduce some of the things that Th3rd Coast is going to be presenting today on the webinar, which we find will add a lot of value to our customers. If you have looked at AR in the past, or if you don't know what it is, we're kind of going to go through some examples of it today. You always feel free to go to TriStar's website and take a look at previous webinar replays. I've presented some of the things that PTC has from the AR side, such as Vuforia Studio, using Creo Illustrate to define some of these. There are other webinars that kind of go through and show what are the other applications of AR typically. So take a look at our website, take a look at some of the previous webinars if you're interested in this area. But today, I hope you're going to see an example of, well, what can we do in AR that's going to really impact our business or could impact our business. So with that, let me transition over to Brad, and let's continue on this journey.
Excellent. Thank you, Bogdan, and thank you, Joe, for chiming in and sharing a little bit about yourselves and what we're going to be doing today. So today is really going to be broken up into two segments, if you will. We're going to first explore just what AR and the IoT and what all that is about and how it impacts, and a company should be looking at that. And then we're going to be going into a specific solution, get a demo, and we're going to do a deep dive, and that will start to address some of maybe the pain points that you are also facing out there as you are watching this. So let's go ahead and get started. Now, Joe and Bogdan, we've heard a lot. Let's start up high. There's everything Industry 4.0. People have heard that word. It's everywhere. But let's just quickly define that for everyone watching, because it's one of those things, like everybody hears Industry 4.0, and if there's an assumption that you should know, people just assume that they know because they may not want to ask the question. So let's dive right into that, and then we're going to jump into two segments under Industry 4.0. So Industry 4.0 is the fourth version of industry, as we call it: 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, and 4.0, if you will. 1.0 was the Industrial Revolution. 2.0 was automation, basically in the early 1900s. The third one was the computer revolution, when we started using a lot of data, and in roughly 1985 was our first industrial computer that we applied in the manufacturing and industrial complex. That was version 3.0. Now we are in what we call version 4.0, and version 4.0 is really 9 categories that fall under that. It's things like augmented reality, autonomous robots, IoT, cybersecurity, additive manufacturing that we know as 3D printing as well, simulation, which we call digital twin. And there are 9 categories. Now, today we're really going to be talking about augmented reality, but with a little bit of one more, and that's IoT. And IoT is the Internet of Things. And by combining the power of IoT and AR really gives you like superpowers. And that's what we're going to be looking at today is by combining these technologies, we can provide real solutions that solve real problems for customers, the pain points that all of us are addressing all over the place. So Joe, I'd really like to ask you a question. I'd like to ask you a broad question, just quickly, your vision about the power of why IoT and AR. When you talk about those, how are those two, when combined, how can they benefit a company, somebody that's watching this?
Absolutely. So with augmented reality, what a lot of folks may be familiar with to date is a great use for visualization, right? And that's really cool because all of a sudden now in our real world, we can bring in virtual objects and review them together, see them, collaboratively design, or even have different layers appear over real world objects as well, right? But when we get into also combining it with IoT or a smart connected operation where machines and data is integrated into the systems, then we're really able to take that next big leap that we're going to be focusing on today, which I like to call going from cool, right, which is the visualization aspect of it, now to tool, because it can be an actual data input tool within a workflow. So what that means and what we'll be seeing a little bit later today is we're now taking that point of data input directly to where the work is happening, right? And that's really the big change here that creates a lot of efficiencies and a lot of value when we go to implement these type of systems.
Absolutely, and that's the great part. You mentioned cool to tool. Now, just a few years ago, Joe, you and I have been in this industry for a long time, and we've seen when it was a flash in the pan, and people they started hearing the technology and they started dipping their toe into it and experimenting a little bit, doing little proofs of concept. Well, now your phrase cool to tools, because now we have the technology and we have learned very good problem solution ways of doing business. We've learned good applications, and that's what we're going to be looking at today. You mentioned augmented reality and the visualization process. So anytime somebody is using a tablet, a head device, or a phone, something like that that has a screen or way to put digital information over top of something, that's augmented reality. That augments the reality. And what you're going to be talking about today with TriStar is one of your solutions where we implement the visualization process when we're looking at quality assurance. And you even have a couple more wonderful steps that help track your progress. And two things I like to define is when someone's using augmented reality, a couple things that people look for is like training and workflow. And you're going to talk a little bit about the workflow specifically. And in virtual reality, it's anytime something is dangerous or expensive. So let's focus on the AR portion today that you're going to be talking about. So now, like I said, you've been in this for a long time. So Joe, what are you most excited about solving the problems for customers? What have you seen to where you're like, yes, this solution is really helping my customers? Can you give just a little insight to the problems that you're solving and what it is doing as a benefit for those clients?
Absolutely. As part of Industry 4.0, as you were pointing out before, digital transformation is a big buzzword within that, right? So what does that mean, and how do we bring solutions to market that solve problems specifically, like you're saying, whether a company is going from a complete analog state or maybe has taken some steps towards the digital transformation, but not all the way there yet, right? So when we're working with clients, we like to go with a solutions first approach, right? And to avoid the cool aspect of it, right? Because we really want to get to what's a practical solution that folks can do now that will create some immediate value. So with this use case specifically, visual inspection, what we've designed out is a system that can use the CAD of a part before it was manufactured, right? Bring that to the part after it's come off the assembly line and is now ready for that inspection. You can lock that CAD onto the real world part, now creating a standardization in the process in a digital format that all operators will start to follow the same process all the way through, and then making decisions along the way. Is this good? Is this bad? As those decisions are being made, we're collecting data about each one of those decisions in the form of a photo, as well as some other information about it. That information is then archived and can be used for analytics, traceability, proof later that when it left your facility, it was in a good state. So if it arrives damaged, talk to UPS. But all of these different points are potential areas of where value can manifest. So for example, just standardizing a process of visual inspection is, doesn't seem like it could create value, but if all of a sudden now everybody is doing it the same way, there's an even playing ground that we can go in and look at, okay, this is consistent, this is not, right? And there's no deviation, from operator to operator. Also, we can, expose or gain some insights into what are some areas where some operators may need more training, or need to be moved off to a different position, right? Also, it can increase cycle time through the process as well, because we all want to go as fast as we can, but in a very accurate way, right? So by, again, bringing the augmented reality experience to the point of work and providing that digital interface that folks can create the data about the job right then and there, becomes a huge step towards efficiency, right? Beyond that, it's also a great place for some, what we like to call just-in-time training, right? So that can cut down on your upfront training of a new inspection process that needs to be done, and we can focus more time on the actual work. So with different hints and different control plans that are accessible right at the point of operation, that is valuable information that eliminates or lessens any deviations through the process as well, right? So I think if it seems like a good time now, I can explain this all away, but it might be beneficial to show a quick 2-minute demonstration video about this system, and then kind of take a step back from that, see if there's any questions out there, and then continue on with the conversation. How does that sound?
That sounds great. So please go ahead and queue up that footage. Let's watch this. This will give everybody watching along with us a little visual example of what we've been talking about. So when that's ready, we'll fire that up, and then we'll have some more questions afterwards and continue our discussion. Here we go.
All right. Can everyone see the screen okay? Yes?
Yes, I believe so. Looks like our engineers are right on top of it. Thank you for everybody working behind the scenes. Here we go.
There we go.
Introducing Inspect and Collect, the intuitive, augmented reality-based quality assurance inspection tool that digitally transforms your quality control process. Inspect and Collect provides traceability by leveraging the power of CAD, real-world AR overlays, and IoT-based analytics. This revolutionary application takes the guesswork out of inspection and guides operators through a standardized step-by-step sequence automatically derived from any control plan to verify, ensure, and uphold the quality standards of your produced products. No more missteps, no more taking time to reference a printed control plan, and no longer must inspectors work from memory. Now, users are able to place reference models directly over parts to compare the outcome with the intention. And knowing that cycle time is the gold standard of success, the user interface has been specifically designed to be as fluid and intuitive as possible, empowering the operator to be fast, accurate, and informative. The tools for success are literally at the operator's fingertips. On the left and right, where thumbs are naturally positioned when holding a tablet, we see the pass-fail buttons. This allows operators to track compliance with production standards and keep a tally of each step's outcome, noting any nonconformities directly from within the app. Each time a pass or fail is recorded, Inspect and Collect automatically generates and archives a photo reference of the result, allowing us to get smarter, faster, and better with every product produced. With a fully digitized and IoT connected dashboard, you're able to gain analytical insight through a mashup of information across products, shifts, and cycles, allowing you to see patterns of success and identify areas of needed improvement, from personal performance to machine degradation upstream. As we dig deeper, Inspect and Collect shows specific results per step per cycle, providing valuable information that can directly inform refabrication, measure cycle time, and give time-stamped evidence that when a part passed your inspection process and left your facility, quality was not a question. Inspect and Collect, empowering operators, standardizing processes, and archiving results. Smarter, faster, better. The future is now.
That's absolutely fantastic, and I think that shows a real example. And now the viewers out there who are watching this can kind of let their minds start thinking about the way they could incorporate this into their own system and their own processes. No matter what they're doing, you can do this from machines to tools to parts to assembly to training to quality assurance. The technology really enhances what you're doing. Like you said, it goes from cool, to tools, something that's actually beneficial to the company. And, we even talked about this. One of the side benefits is attracting and retaining labor. And I know that's another conversation for another day, but really when we're talking about this with this new workforce and the rapid advancement of technology, really half the workforce is now millennials. And, millennials are used to this technology. They're already using it, especially even with the Gen Zers coming in. They're used to this technology and they're almost expecting it. So when you incorporate this kind of technology, you're meeting your workforce where they're at, which improves retention, which is very, very important. And it also it increases the rate that you can do your training. It onboards people faster. So just a little side note there. Joe, can you talk through a little bit about some of those points on the video that we saw that you want to just draw attention to?
No, absolutely. Two quick things coming out of that. So if you really look at the framework that's underneath how this specific solution comes together, it's really taking a CAD and then using it to make a direct association to a real world object, right? That's what we call object tracking or model tracking, right? Once that connection is made, then that really provides that tether of being able to use digital tools to affect or enhance work that's done in the real world, right? So that's a really key element about it. The other part of the framework that's important is that now that tether is connected, we can collect data real time about that situation, whatever's happening. So in this use case, we're applying it to a visual inspection process, right? However, with that same framework, it can really Swiss Army knife out to apply to other situations like work validation, for example, right? We have a client that we're working with that's in the oil industry, and it had an issue with consistency and getting correct information to maintenance workers who are going out to perform work. So a system like this can provide them a way to get the right information about the right job with specific direction relative to the real world about what to do. But then the work validation aspect of it comes into play when, as they're going through that work, they can be creating that proof of that the work was done correctly, right? There's also safety compliance. If we're talking about smart connected operations where machines might be connected already to an IoT system, that checks the compliance state of an operator. And if they're not in compliance, then they're not allowed to turn on the machine, right? If you know, in the old days, if you were that operator, you were out of compliance, you might have to go see HR, or schedule a time for you to go through the training before you could turn on the machine and get back to work. However, with a system like this, now it can recognize that you're out of date and then provide you through AR that compliance course that you go through, and then you validate that you've done it, and now that in real time unlocks your capability, your ability to do the work. So really your mind can start going all over with how this framework can be applied. We're focusing specifically on the visual inspection because that was an area of need for a lot of folks, that when we first came into the solution, there was a lot of folks that were implementing the fixed camera solutions, right? And this kind of segues to the second point that I'd like to make about the system, which is the fixed camera systems are great, right? Because then you can really move towards that automation, where fixed cameras are looking at a part that might be coming off and then making decisions based on some machine learning or AI that's been programmed into it. That's great. However, the big issue that we were seeing trend around was the success rate of the AI models that were being used. And the way that it was described, to us, it's kind of like as good as a coin flip, right? And that's not good if you're doing an inspection process, right? So I think where we targeted, where the main bottleneck was in that system is how you're teaching the baby robot or the baby AI to learn what's correct, what's not, how to identify what compared to the control plan and pass through things, right? So taking a step back, what Inspect and Collect does is makes the human that's still involved in the process more efficient, but then also makes them a passive but real-time constant teacher of that AI model. Because every decision that human is making, is the photos are being archived along with that information that now becomes a constantly refreshing, refining data set for your machine learning object to be learning from. So if a company so chooses, they could use this data to move towards that AI automation process, but in the meantime, not have to stop down, take a day to program that up, create new data sets. Instead, make their current workforce, enable them to be more efficient, more accurate with what they're doing, and be training those automation models and the AI at the same time, right? So it can really kind of start to splinter off, but the key is that we like to focus on, especially with AR and getting into the new spaces of how to integrate this into your workflow, is we like the crawl, walk, run approach, and leading with these solutions first, so you can take these baby steps and understand, okay, this is how it works. It's not scary. It actually makes more sense than a printed SOP, right? You're not looking at something and then moving over trying to figure it out. Everything is right there in front of you, presented, in 3 dimensions, through the tablet, or as you mentioned, through a wearable, any delivery device that really suits your environment the best. Once you understand that, see the value that immediately pops out, then the light bulbs can start going off, and you can start saying, oh, okay, we can do this in this area, we can do this in this area, and you really kind of get how this front side of digital interface, right? How taking how I interact with computers off of this flat screen 2D monitor, and now bringing it into the real world, into what we call spatial computing, right? How there's so many benefits that are yet to be unlocked in that area, and get an understanding of that, if that makes sense.
Yes, and that's a great answer and a lot to unpack there. And I'm just going to kind of synthesize a couple little notes that you made. So when you talked about the AI learning, in real time, basically, and the human decision, think about it like, if you're watching, think about it like this. When you put your fingerprint on your iPhone or whatever it is, you do it and you do it again, you do it again, you do it again. Every time you're improving the quality of that print and that decision making, kind of the same thing. A couple other points that you touched on, Joe, were basically like the expert knowledge and knowledge isolation. And I'll just kind of frame it a little bit like this. There's so much that you can do with this technology. I know we're specifically focusing on the quality assurance and doing the checks for the products, but also anytime that you want to do workflow, like we're talking about, this is a great thing because it goes just in that visualization process. So let's say somebody is learning how to work a machine and there's typically seven steps. Just like we saw in the example there, somebody could be holding a device, a tablet, and it would do object recognition, would know what machine they're looking at. It'd be like step one and show you. And also now you're getting trained not from watching a video in the break room or going through a 3-ring binder. Now you're getting trained right there on the process. Now, to your point about what you just talked about on inspect and collect, is that now going through that process, we're collecting data all the way. So let's just say you have a part that comes out, the object tracking and the digital representation comes over top. Well, you can quickly see if it pass or fail, and that now is being tracked quality assurance wise, and then along the process out to your clients, and that can save not only dollars but a lot of time. So Joe, I'd like to now let's go check in with Bogdan. Bogdan, I'd like to check in with you about this technology, how you guys are involved, and how you see the benefit of it. If you wouldn't mind chiming in now, we'd love to hear from you.
Sure, thanks. Yeah, so I think a lot of our customers, they kind of see the technology, AR, the kind of trend of system connectivity, but they're really not sure how that can happen in their own environment, right? The feedback sometimes from customers is, well, we've seen AR, it looks pretty nice, but we're just not mature enough, or we're not ready for it in our organization. And really, what are some of the return on investment numbers that we can see if we did bring in AR, IoT into our organization? So they're kind of looking at a path forward, but they really don't know how to move forward. So when we kind of talk about, well, let's look at a use case that we can apply AR to. I think the traditional use case of AR so far has been, well, we got this great product, let's kind of show it to our customers in a 3D virtual environment. Maybe we can't travel with our product. Maybe we want to send out this product to someone for design review or collaboration. Let's let them look at it in 3D. But sometimes that will provide a lot of value. But trade shows are once a year, right? So what else can we use this AR for that we may have purchased? So I think one of their questions is going to be, well, this is another approach that we can use for AR, use it in our inspection. How is this going to be different than we're currently doing today? What benefits are we going to get?
Now that's a great question, Bogdan, and one we hear a lot, and really one that fueled that concept that we talked about before, because using it for the sales and showing off a product or a design review is cool, right? That's a cool use of it. Like you said, you don't have to travel with the product. It might be big, and you can still show off to your client when you're there the key aspects. You can even do a little bit more that's cooler. You transform it or move it around, show explosions, see what's inside, get that X-ray view. Those are all cool categories, right? And really that aligns with using AR for visualization, right? Now, when we talk about moving it more to a tool, that's where we're really unpacking how do we integrate it into an actual manufacturing process workflow, right? And create efficiencies in terms of data collection, and then create less issues or less mistakes that go through. Create that traceability. So if there are mistakes that go through, we can go back and find them, figure out what went wrong, where, when. And all of those have value associated to them, right? And again, I think that's what fuels our approach to stepping slowly into this and targeting a solution, right, that can address a specific issue or problem that a lot of folks may be struggling with, whether if they're still on an analog system where all of the notes they're taking about an inspection process could be written down or marked up with a marker or something on the process, right? Or on the actual part. Now with the digital tools, though, bringing that data input directly in, to that point of decision making, you're making it faster and you're decreasing on just any errors that may get lost in the recording of that information, right? I always like to share this story about one of the clients that we were working with had gone through a digital transformation for their visual inspection process, right? But what that meant was they had a spreadsheet that the operators needed to fill out from a desktop computer that was about 100 feet away from where the actual work was taking place. And the inspection process had about 30 to 35 or so steps. And it was up to that operator to remember which steps passed and which steps failed, walk over to the machine, input that data, and then go back. And for the first month, it was going great, right? Because they looked at the spreadsheet reports and their inspection process was great. It was almost 100%. Really, though, upon further insight into how that worked, it was that by the time the operator got over, they were concerned with cycle time and making sure they were getting their work done for their shift, that if they forgot something, they would input something, right? So there's data integrity going on there, right? So value associated to that, right? So I think to answer your question more directly about what are some of the levels of value, with a walk, crawl, run approach, there's basic setup fees involved, and we have even pilot programs that we could target one specific process that you have, set that up as kind of an out-of-the-box setup, so you can understand how it works, see where the value is, create some actual measurements of that before you scale out. But based on an initial investment, typically there's about a 7x increase in terms of the value that comes back over time, depending how far you scale it through your systems.
That's great. And so thank you both Bogdan and Joe on that. Now I have a question. You guys talked about, clients. Who's a potential client for this? Who would be somebody watching this? And not only I want to add to that question, not only a potential client, if there's somebody out there watching this and, oh, that's us, we should do this. Who else should be involved on the team? Like, who's somebody that should be brought in for that project or discussion? I don't know if Bogdan or Joe, whoever wants to take it, or Alex.
From our perspective, really, I mean, in terms of where manufacturing is as an industry, right? It really crosses verticals for us. Any company in any vertical typically has some aspect of manufacturing going on, right? Especially as manufacturing gets higher tech. And we start to produce more, but in a very smart way, right? We see the clients in terms of an industry sector being all over the map, right? But then where do you go next? You look at, is it plant managers that are this is a great tool for? Is it overall GMs? Is it frontline workers? We've really seen benefits for any of those audiences, right? I like to work directly with the frontline folks because we get the most insight, from how these type of tools are affecting their work from a day-to-day basis, right? And we always feel that it's a big win if the frontline workers are the ones that are having the light bulb moments and asking for these solutions, right? Because what that says to us is it is making their job easier, better, more accurate, right? Everybody likes to get good reviews. So if you can actually trace that you're doing a good job and prove it, then that's a good thing. It also helps out with some third-party situations too. I know some companies might be under mandates that if there's an issue with some inspection processes, that they have to hire a third-party team to come in and provide another layer of that inspection for them, right? So to avoid that situation, this is a great application for that scenario as well. Does that answer the question directly?
Yes, it does. And so, Alex, I know you're there. I would like to check in with you real quick. I'm just wondering if there's a question or anything that you see based on all our conversation that you want to make sure that we touch on, or something you'd like us to dive in deeper. Is there another area you want us to discuss further, or a new question that you've seen come up?
I don't see any questions that popped up. I guess my question would just be sort of maybe what kind of, I guess, what's the implementation process for this? What's needed, I guess, from just a really basic standpoint as far as like CAD models. Is this solution going to be a SaaS solution? How easy, I guess. I mean, that's something I think when it comes to IoT and AR, it needs to be easy. It needs to integrate.
It does.
Absolutely.
That's a great question. Yeah, Joe, why don't you go ahead and start?
Sure, absolutely. That is a great question, one we get all the time. And really, we've designed it out, again, to follow that walk, crawl, run. We have a quick turnkey pilot that can be up and running within a few weeks, that focuses on one or two specific processes that you have. What's all involved with that is we define specific measures of success up front. Then we get control plans as well as CAD, and we integrate that into a solution that at first just runs in the cloud, right? Or in a private cloud if there's security issues going on there, right? Once we measure, we run it and measure for about 3 to 4 weeks, and then recircle and review, right? So we can understand, did we meet the measures of success? Where are the value points? And now that we have a better, more tangible understanding of the system, how it works, then we see where else can this scale, right? Then this specific solution is presented as an add-on to PTC's Vuforia Studio, which is a very powerful low to no code authoring tool, right? And this then allows your team internally to become active participants in the creation process. So then over time, the more you get comfortable with transitioning skill sets of your internal team to be able to author and build augmented reality and IoT connected solutions, you can start using more of the Vuforia Studio solution on your own, but again with this turnkey add-on template to be able to scale out as well. Does that make sense? Does that answer your question directly? So it's kind of small bites until you're ready, and then you can have full run at whatever you want to do, basically.
Yeah, perfect. And I think just a question that came in, this really just piggybacks off that pretty well. As this is sort of a turnkey solution, what would be, I guess, like the average cost for implementing just like a proof of concept?
Yeah, we try that all depends on the scope, to be honest. And I'd love to set up a follow-up meeting to speak with someone directly after this to learn more. But for that pilot situation, we try to keep it pretty lean, so it's, you know, the economics up front aren't a barrier, and really then, you know, the costs really scale out and are proportional to the value that you can project after understanding how that really works. Does that make sense?
Yeah, perfect.
All right, Alex, anything else before we start to wrap up?
No, I mean, definitely a lot to unpack, but I think it kind of got everyone kind of, you know, thinking about sort of all the different aspects that this could be implemented in. I'll keep monitoring this here for a moment, but if not, we could probably kind of wrap up. And I do encourage everyone to leave questions now that we can kind of answer.
Yeah, and even if, yeah, I was just going to say, and even just with the few minutes we have left, I'd be curious from the audience perspective if some folks have experience with AR, and if so, how have they tried to integrate it so far? Just to get a little bit more understanding of how folks are starting to use it. Is it mostly in that visualization side of things, or are folks looking or have been integrating it in other ways that are directly woven into workflows and processes?
Yeah, so while people are starting to chime in, think about different applications or possibilities that you may have seen, whether directly you've experienced them or heard them in your company. That can be everything from, like as Joe said, the visualization process to training and onboarding, and that could be using a mobile device, that could be a tablet, it could be using a head-mounted tablet like RealWear, like Vuzix. It could also be like an XR solution like Microsoft HoloLens. It could be a VR solution, Oculus, the Vive, whatever it might be. And that can range from many different possibilities: training, maintenance, repair, visualization, inspection, a lot of different ones. So if you've had an experience or know that your company is doing anything or even starting to look, how about this? Everybody that's watching, if you could chime in, what's an area you would be interested in exploring, how you can apply augmented reality to your company or your process. So just put it in the question box if you have one. Curiosity, like, well, we'd be curious if we could put it on our line, or we'd be curious if we could put it on one of our machines or our robot or whatever it might be. So just put that in there. It's a wonderful, amazing technology. We're really starting to see the true benefit and value once you start implementing it.
Any action on the hotline there?
Any action on the hotline? Well, the bat phone is starting to ring. So Alex, I know you are kind of the broad moderator. I don't want to start wrapping up until you believe we have covered all our bases. Is there any material you want to go through or things before we start to wrap up with our thank yous and our social media and outreach?
I'm just holding here for a moment for any more questions. I think that covers it. I will probably mention we've kind of just been in discussions of kind of doing potentially a series, probably starting next quarter, that kind of just dives in deeper, probably goes over, some more specific use cases depending on your industry, things like that. But with that, I think this was a nice little introduction on some of the potentials of this tool. So if you guys want to kind of go into the kind of ending portion, we're actually kind of reaching the top of the hour. So.
All right, well, I'll start. So thank you, Alex and Bogdan and Joe. So why don't everybody go around? So Joe, if somebody wanted to get a contact, reach out to you or 3rd Coast, what's the best way for them to get a hold of somebody, either you or somebody at your company?
I think really, since we're working with TriStar as our partners, and especially in context of this audience, if they could follow up with their TriStar representative, and ask, hey, I'd like to learn more about AR or inspect and collect. We'd be very excited to set up an initial discovery meeting with you in collaboration with TriStar to see how we could really pinpoint and help solve a problem.
Great. So Alex, can you share with everybody out here the best way they can get a hold of you or the company to follow up this?
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely our website's probably the best resource. As Bogdan mentioned at the beginning, there's going to be a full library that just kind of has nice introductions to augmented reality, some solutions and implementations we've done in the past. That's probably going to be one of your better resources, in particular for this one. Beyond just this recording, which we will send out to everyone on demand that registered, we're going to be hosting this on our website, on our YouTube channel. So if you kind of look this over, if you share it, if you have questions later, definitely reach out to us. As Brad mentioned, we are partnered with this solution. So if there's any questions later, definitely visit us, give us a call. We'll be more than happy to kind of schedule a more personalized, I guess, demonstration of this tool as well. So with that, I think we're probably pretty good. Brad, Joe, any kind of closing thoughts?
Yeah, so, and if anybody has any questions for me or the VRARA Association, you can check out my website at bradwade.com, but reach out to me on social media with your thoughts on this presentation or questions about emerging technology as well. You can find me at Brad Wade on LinkedIn and Facebook, but on Twitter and Instagram, you can find me at TechBradWade. So I'd love to hear your thoughts, love to hear what you thought about the panel. We'd love to have good conversation with you. So thank you, Joe. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Bogdan, TriStar, 3rd Coast. I look forward to more and more discussions. Thank you for having me be a part of this event with you. I really do appreciate it. And with that, I will hand it over to you, Alex.
Excellent. Thank you, guys. I think that wraps it up. So I hope everyone has a great rest of the week and a restful weekend. And thank you, Brad and Joe and Bogdan. Enjoy the rest of your day, everyone.
Sounds good. Thank you, everyone.